I thought someone else has joined, but it's not. It's because I'm sharing a screen. I think there are probably about 5 or 6 of us today. Let's see if everyone else has found the link. So the first thing you can do on your whiteboard, I thought we could do a bit of drawing first, just to remember some of the things we talked about. Can you draw for us a picture of different stakeholders in a business? Stakeholders of a business. Morning, Fatima. So we're doing some whiteboard bits just to begin with, just to remember some of the key words and ideas. So hopefully you can get a whiteboard, yeah? And then you can draw something to show different stakeholders. So not the shareholders, although there could be a stakeholder, the various stakeholders we have in a business. Lovely to see you. You'll know that you're here. I'll put the link there again while we let everyone join. Okay. Have you both managed to get onto it? Let me see here. I'm sharing that thingy at the moment. Oh, great. Oh, why is it not letting me see it? Have you drawn something? It's just not letting me see it. Or are you in the middle of drawing it? Why can't I see? And I can maybe join, actually. You're drawing it again? Oh, what do you do again? Can you draw something that shows me the different stakeholders of a business? Draw stakeholders of a business. Yeah. So all the people that a business should sort of has an impact on or affects. So you could argue they should consider all of them in their business decisions to be ethically, good. I'll have a go as well, look. I'll try. Oh, why won't it let me do one? Oh, here we go. Okay. Color it in. Have you two managed to something? Okay. There we go. And then I'll change that to blue. Nobody tell Mr. Rahman this is how I'm drawing this. Miss Nanville. Go. Let's see. That's the one that's just joined. Okay. Atika, morning, welcome. We are just on our whiteboards drawing different examples of who the different stakeholders are in a business. So I'm gonna, has my one come up? Oh no, mine wasn't. Can you see? I don't know how I get my one to come up. I wanted to show you mine. So you can get on and draw different stakeholders. So we thought we'd have an example of different stakeholders for business, just a little revision. And then we'll do a second thing in a minute. Look, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine, which is this one, I think. There you go. So that's my example. Who have I drawn? It's very quiet. Okay. Did you manage to get on there, Atika? Oh yeah, great. Okay. So Fatima, you've are you drawing another thing, or is that just that one there? Oh yes, it's coming. Great, good. I've got 3 there. And then how am I going to draw this? Let's see. Oh, there we go. I've got mine done. I've got 4 there. See what you've got, or you can maybe type in which ones I've got if you're still drawing on yours. Have a look at yours here. Oh, Fatima, was one of yours the employer and one of yours was the consumer? Is that what E and C stand for? Jamila, you've just drawn. Jamila, is yours representing that each of the stakeholders are equal? They've got an equal part. Should we do another thing? Should we wipe and clean and start again with another thing? Or can you say or unmute or type and tell me what my ones are? Atika, what have I done on mine?
Did you do the suppliers?
Oh, it could be, yeah.
With the people making the goods.
Yeah, that could be there. That's like a factory on the side that I am. If I have to go back to this here. This is my factory here. Like, so I guess the people in the factory, but then I was thinking of people living next door to the factory. And then that's the world. So I was thinking of the environment. That was supposed to be, this one here was supposed to be someone working on a till. It's actually harder than I thought. And that I thought could just be the shareholders thinking of money. That's what I thought of. Anyway, should we see what we've got here with you guys? Look, I can show you all if I stop sharing. So here we go. Oh, I've got too many tabs open now. Let me breathe. Here we are. If I share. Okay, we'll get onto something else in a second. It's too much. I love these whiteboard things. They're too much fun. So Fatima, do you want to tell us about your one?
I just drew an example of an employer giving a customer, like selling a product to a customer.
Excellent. So you got two there. We got the employee and the customer.
Yeah.
So they're both important stakeholders. They're not shareholders, but they're stakeholders. Fantastic. Great. We might come back and do a little bit of drawing in a minute. But to begin with now, I was hoping we could do a quick Mentimeter. So I shall give it to you just to see what we can remember from different examples. I want us to think of examples today that we can use and how to build them into essays. So if I, oops, I don't want you to think. If I stop presenting that, can you see the Mentimeter link that's just gone in the chat? Yeah, great. So I will share that with everyone. Here we go. I'll give you a few minutes to fill that in. Oh no, not the bad one, the good one. I was thinking we could do that one, yeah. I mean, it does depend what we define as being ethically good and ethically bad, but generally, which ones did we think, well, okay, that's a good thing to do, they're being good? Can you remember? I think all of you did those case studies. So you should be able to remember, hopefully. Oh no, that's fine. No. Great. So yes, that's good. But can you think of some specific case studies, I guess, is what I was wondering. Like, what specific examples would you use to say that they were doing something good? Can you remember any of the, or do you know of any shops that we thought of, or places that do good things business-wise? So the Body Shop is a really good example that you can use. Yeah, the Body Shop's a great example you can use because of their stance on lots of things that are ethical, I guess. The Fair Trade Foundation is another example of a way of trying to ensure that McDonald's, we said, were doing good things, even though they have that kind of bad press. It's quite a good example you can use to say that they seem to be doing quite good things. Great. We had quite a lot of bad examples as well, didn't we? But I think they're some good examples, and some essay advice I was going to show you in a minute says, it's best to have less examples that you know better, that you know, rather than have like 100 examples you know a little bit about. Just try and have fewer examples that you can know more about. So great, the Body Shop and McDonald's are two really good examples you could use for lots of different things. Because the Body Shop is seen as really good, isn't it, by people generally? I think so. I mean, you might think something different, but I think generally they're seen as really good. And they're doing good things. And McDonald's, we saw, are doing good things, but are not seen as really good. So it's quite interesting to have those two examples. Starbucks sustainable, yeah, good. And now that, maybe, what is it about? You can unmute and say it to me. Why do you think it is that people might think, oh, the Body Shop is good, but something like Starbucks and McDonald's have this bad reputation, even though they seem to be doing good things? Why do you think? Jamila, I haven't heard you yet this morning. Can you unmute, Jamila? Do you think people have the impression that the Body Shop is like better than McDonald's? We can type it if you want. Or Atika, you can tell me, or Fatima. You don't know. Do you have that impression, Jamila, or not? Do you just think, oh, it's McDonald's? Maybe it's my generation more. Yeah. I think people just have this view that it's like this huge. Yeah, exactly, because of how big the chains are and how much they sort of take over. They have this sort of mistrust and this idea that they just must be making loads and loads of money. And people don't feel that way about the Body Shop, I guess. I don't know. So people are more suspicious of McDonald's and Starbucks. They're more suspicious of like the money they're making and what are they just doing these things to look good to keep making that money, basically, I think that's what could be argued. And perhaps the history of what they had behind them, whereas the Body Shop has always, from the outset, that has just always been its value, that it will do these things from the beginning, before anyone else was doing fair trade or, anti-cruelty to animals and thinking of like organic and ethical things. The Body Shop was there doing it from the very beginning. So it seems like it's more of its actual core value that's always been there, whether it was successful or not. Whereas for McDonald's and Starbucks, I think people are suspicious and feel like they might just be doing it to look good. But what would a utilitarian argue? Atika, what do you think? What would a utilitarian say about that? Oh, you can unmute everyone. Have you got very noisy houses? Is that why?
Utilitarian would argue that they are being ethical and that it is leading to the greatest good for the majority, and it doesn't matter if they were being unethical before. It's just the present moment that matters now.
And also the effect, if the effect is exactly like you say, remember it's teleological. If the end result is the greater happiness for the greater number, then it's fine. That is what we use to work out if it's good or not. We'll cover this a lot more when we get into meta ethics. When we say, what do we mean by good? Well, that's the end result. Whereas a Kantian ethicist would say, well, it's the action itself. And if they're using people and like basically doing it a bit cynically, or they're doing it to get good business, then they're using us. They're using us and our goodwill and us wanting them to be good to kind of make that money, and they're treating us as a means to an end. So I think you could use that, those two ethical theories to think about that. Great, brilliant. Okay, so what about the baddies then? Oh, not the baddies, but what about bad examples that we could say? Hopefully. Yeah, we've got Ford, Nike, good. Yeah, we've got Ford Pinto is a really important one to remember. I mean, it's a bit similar now in the news where water companies have been pumping sewage into the rivers. I don't know if you saw this in the news. And the government had to just sort of do this vote on it recently. And apparently they were doing it because the fine for getting caught for pumping sewage into the rivers was lower than actually sorting out the problem. So these water companies were just doing it because they thought, well, if we get fined, it's less money. So they kind of did this cost-benefit analysis. And that's just what happened with Ford Pinto as well, wasn't it? Shane, Primark. So you've got the Rana Plaza disaster as well. You could talk about Primark. Nike, you could talk about to do with globalization. Sweatshop labor. Great, fantastic. So we've got lots of like specific examples we can use. Why might... Fatima, why might a utilitarian say that what Primark did with the Rana Plaza factories, why would they say that was wrong, a utilitarian? Fatima, can you unmute and say it, or do you want to type it? Were you raising, Jamila, are you still there? Because it was ethically wrong. Yeah, good. So why would a utilitarian link it to utilitarianism? Because we're looking at this as if saying like these two theories might say things are ethically right or wrong, but what is it about the theory? What would a utilitarian say about Rana Plaza? I'll let you type it, shall I? What would they say? So we got to think about the happiness, the pain and the pleasure. Would it be different for Mill or for Bentham? Because it's ethically wrong. Are you typing? I wish, I'm going to write to Google and say, I want to see little dots above people's name when they're typing, like you get on a phone, and you can tell that someone's typing something. Because it was benefiting the majority. So it was not benefiting the majority, you mean? So it's ethically wrong with Rana Plaza. Well, I guess the utilitarian is going to kind of weigh up, well, what was the good that came out of it? People getting cheap products? People having jobs in the area? Employees having jobs over here? But, I mean, is that weighed up by the bad of the kind of working conditions that people were living under? These were very, like, low-paid young girls, mainly. Shouldn't they have been in education, as Mill would argue, like searching for higher pleasures, I guess, in education and, earning some money to have a better life? Would they argue that, the safety of the workers, the pain of them then dying and then the pain of that lasting for generations, people are going to be feeling that pain for a long time? I think both I think both utilitarians and Kantian ethicists would argue that it's wrong, but it's kind of which bit do you emphasize, you know, when you're arguing it. Great. Okay. So what I've found for you on doing a little bit of searching is some different examples of essays. But first of all, I want to talk to you about writing essays in applied ethics. So I'm going to get rid of that one now. So did you all see in Google Classroom, I've made like this folder called Saturday Essay Club, and I've put quite a lot of stuff in there for us. So I'm going to writing essays help. Yes, so I'll send you this so you know where it is, but I'll also share it on my screen here. I'll share it too so you can see it on the screen. Oh, hi, Reen. Good to see you pop up. We are just about to talk about essays. Some more specific stuff. No, don't worry. It's early in the morning, Reen. It's fine. You're here. It's good. I'll record this anyway. We've just been talking about different things to do with ethics and business. So I'm going to give you some tips now on ethical writing applied ethics essays. So you don't only have it for business ethics. We're also going to do oh, that's not what I wanted. This one here. Okay, great. We're also going to do euthanasia. So we'll do an applied ethics with euthanasia as well. But we're going to do that in class before the end of term. Is my plan at the moment. And so some of these things apply to both, because what you have with applied ethics is you've got the ethical theory and the arguments around it, but then you've got different case studies or examples that you can use. So in a minute, we're going to look at an essay that's got lots of info, but it's kind of lacking the case studies. So for both euthanasia and business ethics, you're going to have like a bank of examples that you could use, as well as just sort of knowing the stuff about the different theories. So basically, an applied ethics essay is the same as other essays, but sometimes students get very emotionally involved with it, which is like with euthanasia, you can imagine that. But also, I've been talking about things like the Rana Plaza, sweatshop labor, that kind of thing. It can get quite emotional. And so then when you're writing, the sort of passion can come through, which is great, but forget to actually write a good essay and to have that sort of academic approach. So it's a bit like, I guess, when we're talking about Islam, sometimes it's like something very close to lots of your hearts, to then have that little distance when you're writing the essay. Also, you need to make sure you're including these counter arguments. The advice given from the exam board is that often these essays end up too one-sided, like, oh yeah, it's totally obvious that was completely wrong, without showing why, you know, there's these different sides. All four of you are very good at doing this in your essays anyway. Also, if you can contrast the theories if the question allows, and the nicest question would be like, which is the best ethical theory, or that one is better than the other for a certain issue or a thing. So just to make sure, if the question allows it, you can bring both the theories in to say which one is best. And then having a few case studies that you could draw on and illustrate, and not necessarily give like the whole backstory. I know I'm awful when I teach, I give you lots of long stories, but in the essay, you don't give the whole story, you just kind of pull out the most important things to prove the specific point you're trying to make. So know the case studies quite well, but know which bits of it you want to use and how you're going to phrase it, so you don't spend half your essay sort of describing a story that the examiner is going to know, because they've marked 100 of these already. You are going to show them your skill at like picking out the bits that are most relevant to that theory or to your argument that you're making. So a phrase from the exam board is that students should know fewer case studies, but know them inside out, so know lots of details about them. And I was looking through the case studies notes that you were all making just before we did this, and I thought, yeah, you're doing that. You're showing that you know the different sides and the different ways you can apply it to the different theories. And use the theories in more specific ways. So, for example, rather than just say utilitarianism is about the greatest good for the greatest number, it is, you could say, you know, Bentham's hedonic calculus would show that, or using Mill's high and lower pleasures, or, you know, in Kant's categorical imperative, or the formulation of living in a world where everyone's treated as an end in themselves. So kind of knowing the detail about the theories as well is important. And you can actually use the dilemmas used by the scholars. So, for example, I showed you Kant's shopkeeper, didn't I? The honest shopkeeper. Is the shopkeeper doing the right thing by being honest if it is to keep business and get more business, or is it not the right thing? Well, Kant would say the only reason you do the right thing is because it's the right thing, not for any other motives. So we watched a little video on that last time, didn't we? I'm talking quite fast on everyone. Is it okay? Show a hand if you're still there. You haven't gone off to make a cup of tea. Great, lovely, lovely, lovely. So shall we have a little look at an essay? Yes, I'm going to show you the essay here. It's quite a good essay, but there's like one classic sort of mistake that we can have a look at. So can you see that there? Yes, but if you want to look at it yourself, that classroom link has got it as well. If you want to look at it later, I've put about 6 essays in. In a minute, we're going to do another task with the other essays, but I guess you don't need me to read this out loud for you. But what I would like to say is at the end here, we've got this, actually, I'm going to open it so I can annotate it at the same time as you. Just check this is going to open up. Share this tab instead. Yes. Okay. That's better, isn't it? Okay, fine. So here we have got the thesis here. Oh, is it going to let me do it? It's just powering itself up. So I think this introduction is actually quite long. I don't think you would write an introduction that long in 40 minutes in the exam. But what I do like is that we got the key issue here. So it's like defining what's going on. You know, what is business ethics here? And then here we've got bringing in what some of the scholarship says and the ethical theories. Sort of setting the scene. That's bringing in the scholars, but I think that's too long. And then here we've got the thesis. So I'm going to put that in yellow. That although flawed, so it's recognizing there's it's not ideal. Utilitarianism is a better approach to business ethics than Kantian ethics, because Kant focuses too much on the stakeholders involved in business, which is not the main purpose of business. So ultimately it's saying that Kant doesn't really appreciate what businesses need to do to be able to survive. So I quite like this because it's like a little bit subtler than just one or the other. It's sort of recognizing that utilitarianism might be perfect, but it is more useful than Kant. So the main, I wonder if I should let you read this one. Let's read this quietly, this paragraph, and then we'll see what we could do to improve it. So if you've read the blue paragraph there, maybe put in the chat a couple of things you would do to add to that or improve it. So bring in more analysis. Yeah, great, good. That's a good idea. So bring in more ways of linking the things to each other. What about yeah, it doesn't have any examples. It's got not actual examples. This is applied ethics, so of course it's applied to the issue, but we need to have at least a couple of case studies in there, or one case study to really show and illustrate And I think that was something I saw in your, not necessarily yours, but generally as a class in the mock papers for ethics last year, was that, you know, if you have examples to illustrate the points, so we could add in some examples, specific examples, and then we can also add in a bit more specific about, you know, the particular parts of, I know it's talked about goodwill, which is good, and intention, focuses on not treating people as a means to an end. So you could say, you know, in the categorical imperative, Kant shows that we mustn't treat people as a means to an end. So being a bit more specific with the theories as well. And here we've got, you know, a utilitarian would think about all the potential pain and pleasure, you could say, however, using the hedonic calculus, a utilitarianism would show that. So it's just being a bit more specific. It's kind of got the general knowledge, but it hasn't got specific examples. Like Rima said, some of the language could be a bit more specific in terms of analysis. And even like, you know, would think about, you know, there's phrases, a utilitarian would think about all the potentials. So what else could you say instead of would think about? A utilitarian would think about. I might change that to a utilitarian would consider. That sounds a little bit more academic, doesn't it? Especially for you for the kind of essays that you're writing. I wouldn't expect any of you four to say would think about. You probably would say consider or would take into consideration. So thinking about our language as well, that's really good, Reem. And then the examples. Okay, good. And then there's another one I wanted to show you because what I'll do is, because of the time, I'm going to show you like an example that's been given. Yeah, I'll show you one that's been given as an example of how to improve it. The time. Was it useful to read that? And see that sort of how we could add to it? I hope it was. Here we are, this one here. 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 Yeah, okay, good, great. Oh, that's good then. So hopefully now you've got this. So at the moment, that essay would have been like sort of top of C, nearly that sort of top of D, nearly a C, because of the lack of like examples, basically. So here is an example paragraph given. I'll leave it here for you. This is all in the Google Classroom if you want to have a look at it later. Is that big enough to see? It's a bit tiddly, isn't it? Let's open it with this. It's just going to come up now. And what I thought we'd do next, after well, let's do this first. So here, it shows where these different things have been included and added in. I think it just is a bit better if it's oh, come on, computer. I thought I was going to make it easier. Yeah, some examples that are brought in here. And this one uses the Rana Plaza. That's why I quite like this when it comes. Come on. Here we go. Okay. Here we are. So this one. Oh no. Okay, this one is saying, oh no, share this tab instead. Yep, let's share this. Hopefully that's what you're seeing. Let me just check it. Yeah, okay, great. It's a bit better, a bit bigger for us, isn't it? So, oh, it's gone back to being little again. Okay. Utilitarianism is problematic because it offers no protection to minorities and can lead to slave labor. For example, Primark sells cheap clothes, and it kind of gives the example here, which are beneficial to the wider community, therefore maximizing utility, but they do this by reducing costs, employing people overseas to work long hours in poor conditions. We see what extremes this can lead to with factory disasters such as the 2013 Rana Plaza building collapse, where conditions for workers were so poor that many needlessly lost their lives in the pursuit of profit. An application of the hedonic calculus. So I really like that phrase. Rather than just like using the hedonic calculus, there's a good phrase there, an application of the hedonic calculus. May well suggest this is morally justified. So not even like this is good or is allowed. It's a nice phrase there as well, that it's morally justified in utilitarian terms. Even if there's a minority who suffer, the profits produced and the pleasure derived by consumers could be seen to outweigh the suffering of the few, which lots of you mention as a criticism of utilitarianism. Economically, utilitarianism could be seen as a good ethical approach in comparison to Kantian ethics. Friedman, if you remember him, he's like a good example for us to use to say He's like, the only thing a business should do is make profits. That's why it exists. So he would agree. Kant's ethics, however, would never accept this as a morally justifiable position. Using people as a means to an end is clearly immoral. Teleological profit, pursuit of profit alone. What Kant's deontological ethics offers us is the principle of valuing humans and ensuring their rights are always upheld. And so then here it talks about why it would be against, that situation. Again, bringing in Bentham, and then Mill, adding on to Bentham's utilitarianism. And then I don't think you've looked at Singer's preference utilitarianism, but again, they sort of said this is like a recent version. Have you heard of Peter Singer? Did you do about him? Thinking I might talk about him next time, because he's going to be really important for us for euthanasia. Just show a hand if you've heard of Peter Singer as a utilitarian scholar. Oh, so did Miss Robson talk about him? We've just sort of seen him in other revision things and stuff. Anyway, he'll come up a lot in our euthanasia topic. So even though he's utilitarian, he talks a lot about euthanasia. So I think we can bring him in too. Okay, so now I've done it with Miss Robson. Okay, great. Oh, brilliant. So what I might do then now is give you a task where I want you to, instead of planning an essay and writing it, you're going to look at some that have been written. And actually, there's 4 of us here. So what I give is a different one each. Then we'll end up with 4 done. You're going to look at the essay and then plan it backwards. Have you ever done that before, where you look at an essay, then you have to like work out what the points and examples and evaluation were that was done? Okay, so what I'm going to do is give you, it's an assignment in the classroom, which I'll send to you now. Let me just get rid of, that's fine, we'll do that maybe next time. That's fine, we'll get rid of that. Yeah, and then I've got lots for us to do next week as well, if you want to come again next week. No, that's not what I wanted. So what I'll do is I'll give you each a different essay to do when I get to it. Hang on here. So let's go here. Sorry, it's going to appear in a second. Oh, sorry, I've got too many tabs. This is just really silly. Okay. What did we decide last time? Did we decide Kant or utilitarianism was better for business ethics? Can you remember? I can't remember what we decided. I know I switched between them. Why don't you just, what do you think at the moment? Why don't you type it in? Which one you think is best while I get this ready? Kant or utilitarianism? Which one's better for like overall to do with business ethics? What do we put here? Okay. Utilitarianism, yeah. I guess that's how businesses work, isn't it, really, utilitarianism? It seems to fit better with actually like the practical real world of like how things actually happen, and that's what goes on with business. I think I like the idea of Kantian ethics more, but maybe utilitarianism in terms of like actually what works is more practical, I guess. It's a criticism of Kantian ethics generally, that it's just not practical for the real world. It's not pragmatic enough. Okay, so if you go there, it says essay planning backwards. So you've got a little task there that I'm going to now assign you an essay each. So bear with me a second. Okay, let's go. So has everyone found that? So that's the essay plan that we normally do. Yeah, has everyone just raise hand once you open that? And then, okay, cool. People are starting to open them. That's brilliant. And then here, okay. Oh, it's good when it all works, isn't it? Okay, example essay script. Okay, here we go. So, can you now, it's gonna be annoying, isn't it, you to have 2 things open. Can you now go to here and you'll see there's like 6 essay titles there. And I'd quite like us to do one each. So there's 4 of you here, so we can pick 4 of them. Basically, we've got hypocritical window dressing, which I think I'd like Atika to do. So Atika, if you open that essay, my idea was that you plan it backwards into that essay plan. Does that make sense? So we'll do Atika, do the CSR essay. And then get rid of that. Why don't we have business ethics Kant? This one. Why doesn't Reem do this one? Business ethics Kant. Kantian ethics is the best approach to business. So business ethics Kant can be Reem. What would have helped is if I'd just numbered the essays. That would have made a lot more sense. Is that okay, Reem? Yeah? And then why don't we have, so we've got one business ethics Kant. Why doesn't Fatima do this one that's like UT is the best approach? I really should have numbered these. Okay, so Fatima do this one. UT is the best is in the title, yeah? Fatima, UT is the best. And then, so that means Jamila, why don't you do? What's this one here? Business ethics. Ah, this has got 12 in here, so why don't you do this? No, that's 12 essays. Don't do that. Okay. Yeah, this one here, Kant business ethics essay. I really should have numbered them. Okay. Is that right, Jamila? Next week, I'll remember them if I do this again. Cancel. And I reckon, do you want to have like 10 minutes to do that? You can do that in about 10 minutes? Or a little bit longer, we'll see. Well, I'll see how you're doing in 10 minutes. I'll turn my camera off because my son might run in, okay? I'll keep this open, but I'll see how you're doing in about 10 minutes. We can maybe have a look at each other's then, and then do a quick joint essay planning before we go. So maybe I'll put it on. How's it going, everyone? Are you still here? Oh, yeah, lovely. Okay. So I was wondering if we should come back together and talk about what we've been reading in our essays, or was that a ridiculous time frame? Do you need much longer? Or yeah, basically, we've got 5 minutes until 10, so I thought I'd just check in how you're doing. Have you found, maybe just type, have you found something useful in those essays, something interesting, or the way they've tackled a certain thing? Maybe I can see what you've been doing, actually. Let's have a go. Reem. Oh, brilliant. So Reem's looked at, they've put the example, you've talked about this, not the best approach. Fantastic. I'm just going to show yours, Reem, if that's all right. Yeah, good. It's just particularly for you, this group on Saturdays, I want to do this because I think it just really help with our essay structure. You've got great structure anyway, but just having these examples, you know, this space to look at examples in more depth than we have in class. Sorry, my son's in the room now, so it's going to be a bit noisy. Lovely room. I love that. Love your work. Fantastic. Good. Let's have a look and see what else the others of you have done. What else we've got? Tika. So look at your one. Oh, great. Good. So you spent more time kind of unpacking and this is actually the one I was going to work on next week. This corporate social responsibility is no more than a hypocritical attempt to make profit. That's what we're going to look at in more depth next week, I thought, and maybe have a crack at doing a bit of it ourselves, a bit of essay writing. Good. Free market. Fantastic. Adam Smith. And so they've come up with brilliant. And then let's see what yes, we got the slide here for Tina. Good, yeah, so they've used good. It is the best approach, also fantastic. Oh, Fatima, she's done the second paragraph too. Brilliant. Well done. It's the Bentham specific, great, good. And then let's have a look at Jamila. Get the Jamila down here. Great. So Jamila, yeah, this one argues that Kant is best. So, I mean, you can look through these essays. I probably will print them and bring them into class when we revise this more in class together as well. So you'll be familiar with them so that everyone can see them. But I thought we could I'll just like today having a little bit more time to go in a bit more depth. I might let you finish that in your own time then. Just tell me now if you think this was helpful this morning to spend this time talking about this. Just to raise a hand if it was helpful. So you would like to do it again next Saturday? Yeah, great. Okay. Well, we'll do it again next Saturday. And I want to focus more on one specific question, the one that Atika was looking at actually, and we'll have a bit of a debate together. We might have more people come, but it's also fine if it's us. It's fine. And some more examples. Yeah. Then, like I say, once we've kind of done about business ethics more, we will work on other topics as well. We won't just do business ethics for the whole time every Saturday, but I want to do one more on business ethics. Great. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to say goodbye to us this morning. I promised my family I'll be off at 10 o'clock. Thank you so much for coming. I'm really happy it was helpful for you. And I'll see you all on Tuesday, I guess, won't I? Yeah. Bye. Thank you. No worries. No, it's a pleasure. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Bye. I'm waving and I haven't got my camera on. Okay. Oh.